This book is about how living in India, one of the most important aspects of our life is not just the food and the culture and the clothing, but also the way wild animals cross into our lives. So, whether it's a leopard that comes into a campus in Dehradun, whether it's a tiger that comes near people as it crosses highways, whether it's elephants that cross railway lines, or whether it's birds that come into our garden, this book looks at 15 wild species in India which need conservation attention. Some of these are endangered species, such as the tiger, the elephant, and the leopard, the great Indian bustard, which is this giant bird that lives in the deserts of Rajasthan. But some of them also are common species that are still amongst us in good numbers, such as the plain tiger butterfly, which is basically the orange and black butterfly that we've all seen in our
Mm-hmm.
childhoods. Or whether it's the rosy starling, which is a still plentiful migratory bird that comes to India every year to spend winter here. So this is a book that basically tries to capture both the lives of the wild animal as well as the lives of people whose lives these animals cross.
One of the most intriguing stories which you have talked about are leopards, because one can see leopards, stories about leopards quite frequently in newspapers. So this is something which is a reality, especially in the on the periphery of urban areas. So why and how do you think that society should deal with them?
Right. So, if we look a couple of generations ago, there was a much more perhaps acceptance of living along with larger animals in the landscape. The landscape tended to be permeable. So, in our ancestral houses
Mhm.
or homes with our families, we might have heard of elephants coming nearby or leopards or even tigers and bison, not bison, gore, etc. Now, what's happening today is that we've built up our cities in a way that seems to exclude nature. So we find it very odd or very amazing if an animal comes near us. And in fact, our cities are not just cities which are kind of collections of buildings, but they also are part of a larger landscape. Leopards also are extremely adaptable cats. They are able to take prey from a wide variety of places. They live near fields, they live near forests, they live near places where there are people. So even in Bombay, even in Guwahati, and in Delhi, we do have leopards. Now the question is, how can we live in a manner that we don't feel an intense rivalry with each other? So, the answer to that is that there are many ways in which we can avoid actually confrontation with a leopard. I think one of the worst thing that people do is that when they see a wild animal, because they think cities
Mhm.
are only for people, they have a very antagonistic view of that animal and they try
Mhm.
to kill it or they try to confront it. And that's when conflict really happens, when people try to pick up sticks and beat an animal. Perhaps to its death. And actually, leopards live amongst us, and we don't even get to know that they're there.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, they're as silent as ghosts. So, what we need to do is to re-educate ourselves as to how we can avoid having encounters with such animals. It's simple things like having lighting in the places that we live in, so that normally at twilight, when an animal like a leopard is active, we can see where we are going. Simple things like controlling the dog population, because leopards do eat a lot of stray dogs. Almost a very large amount of the diet of the leopards of Bombay, for example, is from the dogs around Sanjay Gandhi National Park. So, if we want to, if we as a society decide that there should be no leopards around us, then
Mhm.
we do need to take away the triggers, which are the dogs and the garbage.
Mhm.
And but if we think that it's all right to coexist, as many people do coexist, people who live in tea estates and coffee estates in various parts of India coexist with leopards, in which they do the simple things like having light, walking in groups in the night, and both leopards and people are able to live. The larger philosophical question really is, why do we consider anything that's not a human being to be such a pest
Mhm.
or such a nuisance? Because oftentimes animals don't want anything to do with us, really. They
Mhm.
just want to go about their business and they don't really want to confront us, including leopards.